place between 9 a.m. and 10 a.m. Events occur in real time.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to FPC Radio Live. It's Wednesday. That's right. We are just, 5 days away from the Super Bowl? I had to do math in my head there. Actually, I don't even know if that's right. I think we might be 4 days. Let me see. That'd be Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Yes, 4 days away from the Super Bowl, John. You like that? You see how impressive that was? Right on the fly, I was able to come up with that and count. With all the pressure on me, I performed at the highest level. I'm essentially the Tom Brady of this show.
Oh, without question. I'm the Aaron Rodgers. As the show winds down, sometimes I just kind of bail out and don't perform at the level that I do earlier in the show, and it doesn't end well. But you went from 5 to 4 pretty quickly. I'm impressed.
Yeah, well, like I said, I don't concern myself with days and dates and things of that nature. But since we are getting closer and closer to the Super Bowl, I should probably know exactly where we are, where we stand when it comes to that. And so we're just a few days away. And look, I mean, we talked about it a little bit yesterday. This is one of the more underwhelming buildups to a Super Bowl, and for a lot of reasons. And I'm not sitting here trying to knock the Rams or the Bengals. I happen to be very excited to see both of those teams, but for the past 20 years, half of the Super Bowls that we have seen have had uh, 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 the subplot of Tom Brady in it,
Mhm.
and whether you like him or hate him, that's a big draw. Then you add in the fact, okay, last year was Mahomes and Brady, and then again, there's other quarterbacks that have come and gone in some of these bigger games. You go back to the Seahawks, the Falcons, all that stuff. Um, that's just that's the least of the reasons why this game is just not being talked about. In the first week, we had Tom Brady's retirement, Brian Flores's a class action lawsuit, and Deflategate was essentially,
Mhm.
or the Patriots and Brady were essentially exonerated completely. I mean, if anyone was paying attention while this was going on, all this stuff that we heard this week on Deflategate, it was only just, you know, confirming what we already believed, us Patriots and Brady fans and whatnot. But there was something satisfying about seeing that on the record. Not that it's going to change much, big picture. It's just another tweet or another article to share to knock back at the knuckleheads that are still claiming to this day that they cheated to get everything they wanted. So for all those reasons, John, the Super Bowl has taken a back seat. So and throw into over the last week or 2 weeks, we've seen all the coaching hires kind of get figured out. So there's a lot of reasons why this game has not felt. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe just the perception isn't there. My perception is off a little bit, but I just feel like the overall hype just isn't there.
No, not at all. I mean, it is somewhat comparable to the Bucks Suns NBA Finals a year ago, and that you had 10 straight NBA Finals with LeBron or the Golden State Warriors in it, right? So it was
Mhm.
just like straight years of the biggest star in the sport, best run organization in Golden State. So you had all of that for 10 years. And then you had Milwaukee and Phoenix, which was a nice 6-game series. Milwaukee, I mean, you could kind of compare them to the Rams. They only had one title in their entire history until last year. And the Suns,
Mhm.
kind of like the Bengals, have made it to the finals twice and lost, just kind of like the Bengals did. So it was that similar feel, and the ratings weren't very good for that. I think the ratings will still be fine. It's football. You could put, whatever team's out there, you're going to get great ratings.
Mhm.
But yeah, I don't sense the build up, and in that sense, I think we're lacking that. But you're right. Brady dominated the last 10 days by retiring, and then the other night, kind of maybe opening the door to come back. And then you had Brian Flores, you had the Deflategate story back on Monday. I mean, who the hell knows what Aaron Rodgers is going to do? That's always kind of on the back burner. And you got all these new coaches now. So it's almost like, oh, yeah, that's right. The football game is taking place on Sunday. And also, you don't have the build up, too, because of COVID, you still don't have, the massive radio row that you normally have. And I think Cincinnati's coming into town tomorrow rather than on Tuesday. And the Rams are the home team, but they're not. So it's just a weird feel, but hopefully it'll be a good game.
Yeah, and look, I mean that's the thing. I mean, I'm not, I don't I'm sorry. I got a little flustered here because I just again it's 2022 and I got someone in my mentions telling me that the Patriots taped the Rams walkthrough tape and I can't. Come on, it's 20 years, people. Like, come on. So if you see me a little befuddled on camera here, that's why. If you want to pinpoint my reaction, um,
Be like Brady. Be focused. He wouldn't let that bother me.
laser focus. No, it does bother me, John. It does bother me, and that's why I'm going to
I
respond
know.
while I'm working, and still go through this. No, look, uh, the reality is this game. I'm excited for this game. I really am. Like I think like look, I said earlier that I don't know as much as I like the Bengals. I am getting the feeling this is going to be a business like game for the Rams.
Mhm.
Um, I, I don't know. I mean, does that mean it's going to be a bad game? I don't think so. But I don't know if we're going to have that. I don't know if we're going to have that same intensity. Certainly later in the game, I just get the feeling that it's going to be like, all right, what time is it? Let's get this over with. Let's wrap it up. Get this trophy presentation. You know how it is because these games are always super drawn out and everything like that. So, um, yeah. So I mean, maybe I changed my mind. I've been wrong on several things of late. So I believe Brady wasn't going to retire. So maybe I'll be wrong here. So
Yeah, I mean, I guess the saving grace would be Joe Burrow. The rising young star. How well he plays in this game. Does he keep Cincinnati in the game? Does he pull off the upset? Which would be a remarkable start to a career, Ian. I know Tom Brady won in his second year. Burrow would win in his second year. And then you also factor in that he was hurt last year. And then the year before he won the national championship. If Burrow wins this game, he almost has a little bit of a feel of Magic Johnson, who in his second year and final year at Michigan State won the national championship over Larry Bird, came in as a rookie and won the NBA championship with the Lakers. I mean, it would have almost that kind of feel, which is kind of, um, reflective of 40 years ago. God,
hmm.
that's a long time ago. But that to me, he's the big story there. Or is it Stafford wins a Super Bowl and now can kind of relax and say, yeah, I guess I am an elite quarterback after all those years in Detroit.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's pressure, individual pressure on all these players. I mean, there's a monumental amount of pressure on the Rams organization. I mean, let's face it. Like this isn't if they lose this game, that's not a success for them. They've
Hmm.
been to the Super Bowl and lost. Like they don't want to do that again. So there's a
Right.
lot of pressure not only on Matt Stafford individually, but just as an organization. And the last time we saw Sean McVay, albeit, very early in his career, in this situation, he kind of dropped the ball. And so did, some of the other players. Not, again, this was a pretty heavy defensive game. I'm talking about Super Bowl 53, but yeah, there's a lot of pressure. So, on top of the normal pressure that the favorites sometimes have to deal with. I mean, everyone, I would believe, I think the numbers, the betting numbers seem to favor the Rams so far. I think
Hmm.
most people are probably thinking, okay, the Rams are probably the better team and should be favored. They're at home. Again, I mean, how much you want to count that as a home field advantage? That's a discussion for another day. But it's still that's still a fact. They're still at home. They're going to have that comfort level that only one other team in Super Bowl history has had, and that was last year in the Buccaneers. So maybe the pressure gets to them.
Hmm.
I look at here's the thing. If this was the Patriots team, or a team that, obviously were perennial Super Bowl contenders and participants, not just contenders. I mean, there's a lot of teams that are Super Bowl contenders every year. Um, a little bit of a blow, but the Packers are Super Bowl contenders every year.
That's Blow. I read that.
Yeah,
I saw that coming from
I,
like center.
John,
Not even like.
I tried to come up with a better example. I just couldn't. I just couldn't come up with a better example on the fly. So I apologize
I
for
think
that. Um, but yeah, I mean,
I think
there's like, like if they were that, they were the Patriots. I'd expect them to handle the pressure, see the talk, and not think twice about it. I don't know about that with the Rams. How many of these guys are in the Super Bowl for the first time? Well, maybe not a lot of the defensive players, but there's a lot of offensive players that are playing in this game for the first time. Now, remember, Cooper Kupp did not play in Super Bowl 53. So this is his first Super Bowl. This is OBJ's first Super Bowl. This is Matt Stafford's first Super Bowl. Andrew Whitworth's first Super Bowl. I mean, there's a long list of players, especially on this Rams offense, that are playing in this game for the first time. So as much as it seems like it might be an easy win for the Rams, I still wouldn't be surprised if the Bengals still somehow pulled off somewhat of an upset.
Yeah, I mean, they seem to be wearing the glass slipper right in this postseason when you just look at it. They haven't blown anyone out. Burrow's numbers are good, not great. They're averaging 24 points per game. Heck, they've scored more points on field goals than touchdowns. 36 of their points have come on field goals, the same amount as on touchdowns. So it's kind of a weird offense. They've only scored 5 touchdowns in 3 games, Ian.
Mm.
Again, that's kind of like the feel of the 2001 Patriots, right? This second-year stud quarterback who's got a ton of confidence and swag, and they're just coming up with big turnovers when they have to. They're winning games on the road against the 1 and 2 seeds, just like the Patriots did. Not in 2001. I mean, they were at home against the Raiders, but then they went into Pittsburgh when they weren't supposed to win, and they won. Just kind of like Cincinnati wasn't supposed to go in and beat the Kansas City Chiefs in the AFC Championship.
Unless you were listening to me, but hey,
that's true. That's true. Yes. What was that? An 11-year-old Ian back in 2001? No, about 16.
Well,
right?
Actually, John. Now, I literally have nothing to support this other than, maybe my friends remember from 20 some odd years ago, but I doubt it. We started a Super Bowl, a playoff pool that year, 2001, and I kid you not, I won by picking the Patriots to win the Super Bowl by 3 points. And so began my quest to become the greatest predictor, if you ignore all of my wrongs, in world history.
That's pretty good. I was dead wrong on that game, to be honest with you. I thought the Rams were going to win by 17 to 21.
I had zero reason to give the pick that. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I saw something that no one else did. I mean, there was a 14-year-old me sitting there saying, "Oh no, Bill Belichick is going to exploit these matchups because, well, if you hit Marshall Faulk, he's got." No, I mean, I understood football, but not to the extent I would say I do now. But at the time, it was look, I was like, hey, whatever, I'll pick the Patriots by 3. What do you know? The Patriots by 3, and I was never wrong. I've never been wrong since. So
nope.
You'll just have to take my word for that. On that.
I believe that. Absolutely.
Okay, good. So, anyways, we're going to in just a minute rank our top 10 offensive players in this game. I do want to ask you real quick. I don't want to spend too much time on it because we are kind of running out of time a little bit here. But of all the coaching hires, and they were finalized yesterday, with the assumption that Kevin O'Connell is going to officially be named the Broncos head coach once the season. What's that? Viking. I'm sorry. Yeah, I apologize. Vikings head coach as soon as the Super Bowl is over, because he is obviously still with the Rams at the moment. So I'll ask you, John, of all those hires, and we've spent a lot of time talking about the hires for other reasons other than the actual X's and O's part of it. But we'll keep strictly to that, the X's and O's, and the impact they'll have on the football team, and not any sort of outside situation going on in the NFL. Who was your favorite hire, or / who do you think is going to succeed in the position that they're in?
I'm not a Patriots honk, right? But
yeah.
I still think the 2 best hires here are Josh Mcdaniels with the Raiders and Brian Daboll with the Giants, because of their ability to work on the offensive side of the ball and develop quarterbacks, especially Daboll. Look what he did with Josh Allen in 3 years in Buffalo. Now, Daniel Jones is not Josh Allen, but he'll play better with Brian Daboll being his coach. And I think McDaniels seems so humbled from his experience in Denver, coming back to the Patriots for a decade and being an outstanding offensive coordinator, that I think he's ready to do really well. So those are the top 2 hires, in my opinion. There is one wild card in all of this, is Mike McDaniel, who originally I'm like, what the hell are the Miami Dolphins thinking about hiring him? But the more I think about it, he's going to be one of 2 things, right? He's going to be wildly successful and be like the new style coach, or it's going to be an abject failure. Like, if one of those 2 things is going to happen, I don't think there's going to be any middle ground with Mike McDaniel in Miami. But I think McDaniels with the Raiders and Daboll with the Giants are the 2 best hires.
Yeah, I mean, look, I know this is confusing. McDaniels with an S versus McDaniel. But no, Josh McDaniels, obviously has gotten a lot of slack here in New England, and because the criticism of his, you know, I don't know, his play call style or whatever, what have you. But the reality of it is, since Brady left, he's not only been able to somewhat put together an offense during that 2020 season with a combination of Cam Newton, Jarrett Stidham, and Brian Hoyer, uh, but you know, Mac Jones had a really good rookie season. I know again, you can accept and say that Mac Jones had an excellent rookie season, and also accept the fact that he has a lot of room to grow and there are things that he
Mhm.
needs to improve on to continue to get better. Both things are very true. And to the credit of Josh McDaniels, he's the one who, continued to put him in a position to not fail. And maybe we can go back in hindsight and say, why weren't they throwing here, or why didn't they throw more deep, or what, I think, big picture, we saw them kind of help him ease into this. Like, I mean, who anyone who says that it's smart to just throw, I mean, some players can handle it, obviously, but not every player can just handle being thrown into the fire. And the
Right.
quarterback position especially is such one of evolution, personal and individual evolution, that it takes time for some of these guys to develop and understand the game. And I think what doesn't get stated enough is how well Josh McDaniels handled that with the Patriots, and with Mac Jones last year. And look, I mean, excuse me, they're bringing Joe Judge back, obviously as an assistant, and I like these failed Patriots head coaches a lot more as assistant Patriot coaches as I do head coaches. So that I'm fairly happy about. I mean, again, he was a great special teams guy here. He's going to have a role in the offense. I am worried about what is how does Mac Jones' growth get impacted by Josh McDaniels leaving. I think most people are like, oh, good riddance, we'll drive you to the airport type of thing. And I'm like, wait a minute. Let's, they have a lot of good options. Let's not, I'm not pretending like, Mac Jones is nothing without Josh McDaniels, but I just think his abilities have been so greatly overlooked, especially here in New England, that I think you're going to realize how good a coach he really is in this official second stint with, as a head coach. I think he's going to do a whole hell of a lot better.
Yeah, and it also helps that he's brought his own general manager.
Yeah,
Right, and
it made
also
made some really really good hires too.
really good hires, and Dayball's going along with the former assistant general manager in Buffalo. So both head coaches are set up with guys that are going to
Mhm.
work with them. It's not a situation like in Jacksonville where you have a sitting general manager, Trent Baalke, that apparently no one likes, and that's why a lot of potential head coaches wanted nothing to do with Jacksonville, even though they had Trevor Lawrence. They're like, I don't want to go there and work for Trent Baalke. So I think that that's why McDaniels and with the Raiders and Dayball with the Giants will do well. I just hope the Giants let him grow, because the Giants have had 3 consecutive 2-year coaches,
Yeah.
which is not the way the Giants usually roll. I mean, Ben McAdoo for 2 years, the last 2 years, the disaster with Joe Judge, and in between, Pat Shermer was the head
Yeah,
coach
right,
for 2
right,
years.
right. Yeah,
Right, so you had 6 straight years of 3 different coaches, each just for 2 years. The Giants are more of the Brooks brothers of the NFL. They kind of like are pretty conservative and buttoned up, and will stick with a coach for a while. So, but I think Dayball's going to last more than 2 years. In fact, I think he's going to do a really good job there, especially that he's got his former assistant GM in Buffalo with him. Again, it's not the strongest division, but they do need to improve that roster. But the most important thing is getting Daniel Jones to be a good, if not very good, quarterback.
yeah. I agree. I mean, their success hinges on their quarterback, and right now, their quarterback is Daniel Jones. So you're going to have to work with that. So,
Mhm.
all right, we got about 15 minutes left, 10, 15 minutes left. So let's, we're going to, today we're going to rank our 10 best offensive players in the Super Bowl. Tomorrow it's going to be defensive players. And on Friday, we'll put our reputations on the line and give our picks and everything like that. So yeah, we'll just start. We'll work our way down from number 10 all the way through number 1, and we'll see how much our list differs. So, um, first off, right off the bat, and there's some intrigue with this, because the top of the list, you think, okay, you can hammer out about 5, 6 names right off the bat. Okay, these are obviously the top 6 in some order players in this game offensively. And then it kind of gets a little messy there at the bottom, because you're dealing with, in some cases, potential. And for one, Tyler Higbee, the tight end for the Rams, is questionable with that MCL injury, and he could very well squeeze himself into this list if it were guaranteed he were going to play or be healthy. For number 10, I actually went with Cam Akers, and I'm not totally confident in it because of A, him still coming back from injury, and B, kind of how he's been hot and cold playing the last couple of games. He's ran well, but has had some fumble issues. I still think overall, though, probably the 10th, if you're going to ask me to rank the 10 best offensive players, I would have Cam Akers number 10 because he does have the potential to have a huge game.
He does. He's a talented player, and just imagine how difficult it must have been coming back from that injury that happened 7 months ago. That's absolutely incredible, testament to his hard work. And they also have Sony Michel, who is one of the guys on the Rams that has Super Bowl experience, played really well in Super Bowl 53. Number 10 for me is Johnny Hekker, punter of the Rams.
Okay.
And I know you wouldn't think of a punter, but a punter is an offensive player, right? Heck, if the Green Bay Packers could have protected the punt and got the punt off, maybe they would be playing in this game. And Hecker's one of the best. We know what Bill Belichick thinks of him. Every time they played the Rams, he's just gone on and on and on about Johnny Hekker. So I have Johnny Hekker as the 10th best offensive player because I guess technically the punter is an offensive player.
Yeah, no, I accept that. I accept that. I thought about it, but no, number 9 for me is a guy who's he's taking the task of being the old guy in the Super Bowl, and that's Andrew Whitworth,
Mhm.
former Bengal, former or now current Ram, but he's filling the role left by Tom Brady as the 40-plus-year-old in the Super Bowl this year. Yeah, I mean, look, I mean, he spent a large chunk of his career with the Bengals. He's now making it to the Super Bowl for the first time, going against the Bengals of all teams. But he's going to be absolutely crucial for this Rams team if they're going to want to dictate offense. They're going to want to run the ball and control the clock. He's going to be an important factor, and rightfully so because of how good he is. So number 9 for me, Andrew Whitworth.
Yeah, he's the only offensive lineman I think worthy of being in the
Yeah.
top 10. The Bengals offensive line is poor, to say the least. And that's a testament to how great Joe Burrow has been this year, although I think Burrow can be responsible for some of those sacks, and he'll clean that up as he plays more. Number 9 for me is Evan Mcpherson, the kicker from the Bengals, who, man, if the Bengals go ahead and win the Super Bowl and you had like an MVP of the entire postseason, he might be the guy. I mean, he's got 2 game-winning field goals, one in Tennessee, one in Kansas City. He's as cocky as Joe Burrow. I mean, maybe Burrow and Mcpherson are going to be the modern-day Brady and Vinatieri because they don't lack confidence, and here they are in the Super Bowl. He's 12 for 12, Ian, in field goals. That's 4 per game, and obviously they're all key field goals because the Bengals haven't won by a lot of points. They won by 7, 3, and 3, again, somewhat similar to the 2001 Patriots. I got Evan Mcpherson at number 9, and I was even thinking of putting him even higher.
You love your special teams, John. I think deep down, it's more or less you're thinking about the Packers.
Well, you know what? They finally hired a good special teams coach, Rich Bisaccia, who I think owns a sub shop in Revere. I mean, he looks like a guy that I get my subs from down the street. But too bad they couldn't have hired him before the divisional round because the Raiders got eliminated the week before. They should have brought him in right away, loan him from the Raiders, and maybe they'd be playing in this game. Yeah, look, Aaron Rodgers has to play better in the postseason, but you can make a case special teams potentially cost the Packers 2 trips to Super Bowls in the last 7 or 8 years back to the 2014 NFC Championship game. Just handle the onside kick as poorly as Rodgers played. You advance, and as poorly as he played against the 49ers, don't have a punt blocked for a touchdown, and he's still playing perhaps. So, yeah, Bisaccia is a good choice as their new special teams coach. And, yeah, I like these. These 2 guys are going to be weapons, though. If this is a nip and tuck defensive game, remember Super Bowl 53, how good the Patriots special teams were. It's a 13-3 game. The special teams, will play a factor.
Oh, sure, absolutely, and I expect them obviously, positively or negatively. It's not just,
Sure.
We could see kicks out of bounds. We saw 2 of those with Tampa a couple weeks ago, which again, you don't talk about kicking yourself in the foot. But anyways, number 8 for me, Bengals tight end Tyler Boyd. He's a guy. Again, there's not too many high marquee tight ends in this game. Again, Higbee, questionable. But Tyler Boyd, he has an opportunity to kind of really make an impact. They're going to put a lot of attention on Jamar Chase, obviously T. Higgins as well. Tyler Boyd's going to have an opportunity. So number 8 for me, the tight end for the Cincinnati Bengals.
Excellent player. And Burrow is one of these young quarterbacks that gets it. Just get the ball to the open guy. Look, if Jamar Chase isn't going to be there for you, go to the open guy, and Burrow's very, very good at that. Number 8 for me, I have him one spot higher than you did, Andrew Whitworth. And he's one guy that I'm kind of pulling for. I mean, if I was going to pull for the Rams, it might be because of Whitworth. He's been a guy that's been in the league forever. He seems like just a really good guy, doesn't he? I mean, always gregarious. So I have Whitworth at number 8. And obviously, he's got an important role keeping Matt Stafford's blind side safe because the Bengals can rush the passer. We saw that against Mahomes, although those are more covered sacks for Mahomes, like zoning out type sacks. But Whitworth, I have at number 8.
The problem with the Rams, though, is that sometimes every side is Matt Stafford's blind side. Let's just hope that this game is not going to be that. Number 7 for me, T. Higgins. Could be the number 1 option, could be the 3rd option on this team. Whatever the case may be, he's going to have to, again, going up against this defense, have a big game. And he's certainly had a great season for this Bengals team. And so for me, number 7, T. Higgins.
I have him too, right there, Ian. I'm not going to disagree with you. I have him at number 7. And when in doubt, go with a Clemson wide receiver. T. Higgins, DeAndre Hopkins has had a great career. You also got Deebo Samuel, played at Clemson. It hasn't hurt that they've had 2 great quarterbacks there over the years in Deshaun Watson and, of course, Trevor Lawrence. But, yeah, I have T. Higgins at number 7. And he's the kind of guy, again, if they limit Chase, you may see a huge game from Higgins.
Mm-hmm. Number 6 for me, Joe Mixon, running back for the Bengals. Very clearly the best overall back in this game. Again, Sony Michel's experience is certainly worth looking at, and he has the ability to have big games. Cam Akers, we already talked about. But Joe Mixon, you can argue, might be one of the 3 best running backs in the entire league. And if he's rolling, if he's moving right, and if they're getting adequate blocking, not even great blocking, if you can get adequate blocking, he's going to have himself a good game. So number 6 for me is Joe Mixon.
Yeah, he's outstanding, isn't he? I mean, he's really big in the pass game as well. Remember that 42-yard reception against the Ravens when Burrow was just really trying to nail the coffin in on the Ravens because Wink Martindale said, yeah, we're not ready to get him a gold jacket yet. And Burrow kind of took that personally. That's when I said this guy Burrow's a little bit different. He takes flights and runs with it. Number 6 for me is OBJ. Look, I mean, if he's the OBJ of 3, 4, 5 years ago, he's way at the top of this list. But, he's been outstanding with the Rams. And look, again, bring the Packers into this. The 2 teams that came down to the end for OBJ, the Rams and the Packers. The Packers didn't want to add some money to it. And also, I think he wanted to play in L.A. He has a home there. He's a star. His idol is LeBron James. So if you're living in L.A., you can call up LeBron and say, you want to grab lunch today? Can't do that in Green Bay unless you go to maybe
LeBron might have plenty of time this summer.
Yeah, well, don't get me started on that one. Oh my God. I'm not going to bring up that Tuukka Rask is retired.
Okay, all right.
We're just throwing shots at each other today. Okay, I think all the Aaron Rodgers hate, and then now LeBron, and remind me Barry Bonds is not in the Hall of Fame. Tuukka Rask is retiring, by the way.
Yeah, I know. Trust me, it's been a tough week for players that I've greatly enjoyed throughout my lifetime, and have built homes on top of hills defending both of them. So, but no, I have OBJ number 5. So we're kind of right in the same ballpark when it comes to him. Obviously he's not to the point where he was made a household name with the Giants, but he's pretty darn close. He's certainly better than the version he was with Cleveland, and he seems to be really taking to this offense. So number 5 for me, which when you think about it, it's kind of crazy. Is Odell Beckham Jr.
And I have Joe Mixon number 5, so we've just kind of flip-flopped those 2 players. Mixon could be, again, I've probably said this about every player we've talked about, another key guy here because if the Bengals can run the football, set up some play action, keep that pass rush off of Burrow, then they're going to be able to put points on the board. So the key here is running the football. The Rams held San Francisco to 50 yards rushing in the NFC Championship game. That's impressive because the 49ers can run the football. They weren't able to in the NFC Championship game, and that put more pressure on Jimmy Garoppolo. So Mixon is a key guy here. I have him at number 5.
All right. Number 4 for me, Joe Burrow. Again, we're getting top heavy here. So, I mean, the 1 through 4, 1 through 5, I mean, really interchangeable pieces, but you're starting to get into the real powerhouse players in this game. Joe Burrow, again, I mean, there's a lot to like about him, to your point earlier. this is a long-term career thing, but he's going to have to clean up the sacks. He's going to have to learn how to, get rid of the ball when it needed, and to avoid those losses in yards. But yeah, number 4 for me is Joe Burrow.
I'm shocked you have him at number 4. Your younger brother, I thought you'd have him higher up the list.
Well, I mean, there's some good players in this game. There's some really good players in this game. So
we're going to agree on the top 4. I'm sure just going to be in a different order. I got Matt Stafford at number 4. I think of the two quarterbacks, there's more pressure on Stafford because he's 34. Like, although the Rams look like they're set up to get back here 1 or 2 more times over the next few years, they're one of the youngest rosters in the league. They do have all that star power with Donald and obviously Stafford, but they're a pretty young roster, and they draft well, even though they don't have any first-round picks. They're like an NBA team that trades all their first-round picks for established stars. But there's a lot of pressure on Stafford because this may be the only time he gets there. With Burrow, and again, you can't be presumptive about this. We think Burrow could get back here again, but again, Dan Marino didn't get back to the Super Bowl after going in his second year. But Stafford, to me, is still prone to that huge interception, a pick 6, which I don't think Burrow is as prone to. So I'll put Stafford at number 4.
Yeah, see, I have Stafford at 3. So, I mean, again, I'm giving him the slight edge because of, he is a veteran. I do, I'm not, as anyone who's listened to the show, I'm not the biggest Matt Stafford guy, but even I have to give credit where credit's due. Despite the rough last 4 games of the season, he's played fairly well throughout the postseason. And yeah, so I give him the slight edge at number 3. So we're pretty close in that sense. Again, I mean, if you were going to sit there and flip-flop them, I'm not going to, I'm not going to put up much of an argument, but I will give the older guy, the veteran, a slight edge in this situation.
Okay. Number 3 for me is Jamar Chase, who's just been phenomenal this year. I mean, we're looking at Chase as a rookie and Burrow as a second-year guy. They're going to be together a long time, provided the cheapest franchise in the NFL will pony up and pay these guys, which it could be interesting over the next 3 or 4 years. He's just been so good. Good size, tremendous route running ability. His hands were somewhat questioned earlier, but Burrow, I think, kind of set him at ease in training camp by saying, I'm not worried. So when your quarterback says that, I think the confidence factor goes up with the wide receiver. He's electric. I mean, he's a guy like OBJ who could take a 8-yard slant and take it to the house from 60 yards out. He's that good. I have Jamar Chase at number 3.
See, I yes, and look, this is not this isn't me saying, oh, I don't think, no, I think Cooper Kupp's incredible. There's just watching him on the field, the Triple Crown winner, just everything that he's done this year. And, again, when you go back to that Bucs game, they were going to go to him deep and he still beat your defense. I mean, there's a lot to say about that, but I do have a little bit higher regard for my number 1. So I will give you the floor for number 2, which there's only a couple options left. So
yeah, we're down to 2 guys. I got Joe Burrow number 2. I was thinking of putting him at number 1. As you can tell, I like him a lot. I really do, and I liked him coming out of LSU. I started the hashtag of, like anybody really cares, but Baby Brady.
Yeah,
I think coming out of college, he had so many similar qualities. The way he plays the position, right? And like Brady, I think people forget this kid is physically talented. This guy was all-state basketball player in Ohio. Like, this is not just, a statuesque quarterback. Let's not forget, I believe he had about 200 yards rushing in his first 10 games last year, which is pretty good. Then he has his knee blown out and obviously stays more in the pocket this year. Wait till next year when he's a year from surgery. I think
about it, though, that might be a silver lining, because if I'm, again, me, how I love my quarterbacks. I'm like, what? Learn from this. See how you stayed in the pocket?
You're right.
Let's do it. Keep staying in the pocket. Like, again, I've yet to be convinced that this new wave of quarterbacks is what's going to happen, because, the more I look at it, the more success. I mean, here we are now with 2 guys. Yeah, they can both run a little bit. Every quarterback can run. Hell, we've seen Brady, gallop 15 yards downfield when he has to and needs to. So that doesn't mean you're a running quarterback. Matt Stafford and Joe Burrow are pocket passers.
Yes.
And it's not surprising that they're in the Super Bowl. And it's not surprising going back to Tom Brady, that he was in 10 of the last 20. You know what I mean? It's just
Right.
as much as people get enamored with the athleticism and the craziness and all that stuff with the new age quarterbacks, to me, it's not sustainable. It doesn't have that long term ability to be successful because again, you open up your body to injuries. Even in this league, in this current iteration of the league, you're going to
Mhm.
open yourself up. And again, the root of it being if you're a running quarterback, that means, in my opinion, you're probably less proficient in the pocket because if you were elite in the pocket, you would have no reason to run, not one reason to run unless the play breaks down. And again, kind of like Brady, you know, you take advantage of that situation. But so to me, if you're an elite pocket passer, there's absolutely no need to run. If you're an elite runner, you better be at least adequate in the pocket, or you're just going to be a failure of a quarterback. And even then,
Yeah.
that doesn't to me lead to any sort of long term success. But I'm getting off topic here. We have one player left. Obviously, it's the one guy that I haven't named yet uh, of all this list, and that's Jamar Chase. And just from a pure just talent and just against anyone at any time, Jamar Chase is the guy. And I'm excited. If you're a Bengals fan, you better hope that these two guys get paid because the way the offense or the way the league's going, those are the type of that's the duo that you want for the next 10 years. I mean, forget about remember the Sewell and Chase debate earlier, during the draft.
Mm.
Who do you take? Do you take the
Yep.
top end? No, you take the guy that has obviously done it with Joe Burrow specifically, but is an immense talent because all of a sudden this is what your offense is. It's not. It doesn't mean that's the right move for every team. I'm not advocating like I think foundationally, I still believe that you work from inside out. But given that specific situation, you can sit there and say, "Wow, you have a chance to get your second-year quarterback, his best receiver from college, the guy who helped put up historical college numbers with. You take him. You take him." Like it's funny to me that was even a debate back then. And it's pretty clear now that I think he's the best over. He's just the best offensive player. I think he's the most purely talented, and I think he has the absolute highest ceiling of all these guys.
Yeah, this guy has a chance in what 2-3 years of being the best receiver in football.
Yeah.
Like I mean,
Mhm.
right now the debate is Cooper Kupp, Devontae Adams, right? So, but Chase is a rookie playing with a second-year quarterback who he did play 1 year at LSU, so they have that great connection. But in terms of everything, this guy has a chance to be the best in the business. And the thing I like about Jamar Chase, he's fairly he has fairly good size. I mean, he's about 6 feet 205, so he's not small. He's not gigantic like Julio Jones, who you look at and go, "Holy cow, that's a new looking wide receiver."
He's got that
But
Randy
his
Moss
explosive,
lankiness.
yeah, and he's got that it's just that explosiveness.
Mhm.
Man, I mean, he takes screen passes and is gone for 55 yards. I mean, you don't find that very often in the league. Yeah, I love the player. Number one for me is Cooper Kupp. I just the year he had is just mind blowing. When you lead the league in receptions, yards, touchdowns, it's come up huge in the postseason. I got to put him at number one. It's interesting with your rankings. It seems like you think the Stafford Kupp, duo is as much responsible for Stafford, which it generally has to be, right? The quarterback has to find the receiver.
Yeah.
The receiver's dependent on the quarterback. So I find that good because they both have had great years together. And it's when you have an elite quarterback paired up with an elite wide receiver, you're going to get elite numbers. But yeah, I got Cooper Kupp number one. Just probably based mostly on this year. The year he's had. I do think 3 years from now we're going to be saying Jamar Chase is the best receiver in football, and Cooper Kupp will still be dynamite. But for this particular game, I think Kupp is the number one offensive player.
No, hey, look, I'm not necessarily. I mean, for the most part, our disagreements were essentially one ranking off. We basically flip
Yeah.
flopped a few of ours. I just had obviously Jamar Chase a little bit higher and Joe Burrow a little bit lower, but really the difference wasn't much. So tomorrow we will do our defensive player rankings. That might be a little Rams heavy. Just off the top of my head, you're thinking running through the names, it might be a little Rams heavy in that one. But we will do that tomorrow, and then of course Friday. We'll give our predictions and bold predictions. We'll have a little bit of fun with it, obviously, because it's the Super Bowl and it's the last time we're going to do this for the football for 6-7 months. So, John, Thank you very much for joining me, as always. And thank you, everyone out there, for listening and hanging tight with us as we work through some technical issues to start the day. But hey, it is what it is. Thank you very much, and we'll talk to you tomorrow.